Hello everyone, and welcome back to my Arcane reaction series. Welcome to Season 2 of me, Alexander, AJ, reacting to Arcane. Thank you so much for joining me, whether you're an old viewer from the old Arcane reactions, someone who's never seen me before, or something in between, maybe someone who's come to know of me through my streams in the past 3 years, or my YouTube videos, who'd never seen my reaction to Season 1, whatever. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I'd just like to thank you for coming back and joining me for Season 2 of this journey. Just as a quick recap, I did my first reaction series, or sort of my first on-camera reactions to anything, with Arcane Season 1. It had just come out, it was late 2021, and I wanted to get into streaming and doing more stuff on camera and showing off my personality. I had done nearly 6 years of, or maybe more than 6 years, of YouTube video analysis without showing my face, without showing my personality. And I wanted to sort of get into streaming and being a bit more out there and more expressive. And the Arcane video reaction series was sort of my first step into doing that. Because of that, because I just love the show so much and all the characters, and because of, I think, the quality I put into it, I'm very proud of that reaction series, and lots of people really like it. And lots of people asked me when that series ended, you know, it's going to be years, but are you going to do Season 2? Yes. The answer was always going to be yes. As long as there are no problems in the production of these videos, as long as I can get them out there, then we're golden, and you're going to see me reacting to the rest of the series. Now, my love for Arcane has only grown since I finished that video reaction series. In terms of my favorite characters list, it's pretty much unchanged. I pretty much feel the same way, but I've rewatched it 3 or 4 times, maybe 5, since then, because that's simply how good it is. In terms of visual storytelling, in terms of character dynamics, just the character writing in a vacuum, the theming, everything about Arcane is first-class television and storytelling, and I love it. It's one of my favorite stories out there, so I am so excited to get into Season 2. At the time of recording this, it's been out for a few days. Lots of people that I know have gotten into it, and I haven't been spoiled on anything. I just saw, I think, a poster and a short 30-second teaser months and months ago, which I don't remember anything about. So yeah, I'm pretty much unspoiled. Once again, I have not played any League. That hasn't changed in the last 3 years, so please don't allude to anything from the League lore in the comments. As always, please don't spoil anything in the comments. That's just how these reactions go. It's pretty self-explanatory. In terms of expectations for this season, I don't want to rag on about this too long, but I have a lot of faith in the character writing for the usual suspects, of course. You know, Jace, Jinx, Victor, Vi, Echo as well, Caitlyn. They're all fantastic characters, and I expect that to continue, because that's what I've seen in the series so far, so I think to not expect them to go from strength to strength would be doing a disservice to the writing. But in addition to that, there's a huge void left by Silco, who is now gone. That's a lot of screen time gone. How's that going to be allocated? How is the balance of the cast going to be approached? I'm not exactly sure, but there's a lot of, I think, potential there for a lot of directions. There could always be new characters, of course. I'd be pretty surprised if there are no new characters that are introduced into this universe. And of course, I think that's going to be coalesced into Jinx's arc. But I also think there's a lot of room for secondary characters to go more into the limelight. I think there's a lot of potential for characters like Singed, Savika, Ambessa. So I really think that we're kind of primed for those characters to get a bit of a spotlight, and I'm really down for that. I think they were great side characters, and I can't wait to see where they go from here, and I think they're kind of primed to be more major, more central. Just in terms of some, I guess, theories going out there that I've had for years, so if you watch my old reaction series, this won't be anything new, or rather, maybe if we discuss this on Twitch, this won't be anything new, but I believe Season 1 ended with that cliffhanger, with Jinx launching her Hextech-fueled bazooka thing into the council room right after they tragically voted to broker a deal of peace with the Undercity. They convinced them. They did the impossible. That smile between Jace and Mel still gets me to this day. It makes me tear up because of how horrifyingly tragic it is. They had done it, but then Heimerdinger's words came back to haunt them. He was right. He was wrong about a lot of things, but he was right about one thing, and that is that this Hextech would come back to haunt them. And it did. This Hextech core. So the obvious cliffhanger here is who survives, who dies, who survives from the council room. And I've been thinking about that over the past few years, and specifically the last few weeks as we've gotten to the build-up of Season 2, and I believe that none of the major characters will die. Mainly because Victor, I think there's no chance. Victor definitely has a character arc that's only, at best, half completed. And I really feel like he's going to go dark. I think it's all, there's some parallels with Silco. There's just the dramatic trajectory of his arc really felt like it was a false ascent. And now something's going to happen, the fallout of this event, that's going to turn him completely down the road of Singed, in some ways down the road of Silco. I don't necessarily think it'll be super drastic at first, but I really wouldn't be surprised if Victor goes dark. I'm kind of expecting it to an extent. So I think that's just ready-made for Victor, and so I don't think he's going to die. I think that would be a huge mistake, and I don't think he's going to die. I don't think Mel is either, particularly because there's a lot of stuff unresolved with her relationship with her mother, and I still think she has a part to play in the future of Piltover going forward. She made the choice to go with her, I guess, heart over her blood. And so I think they will want to explore the ramifications of that. The last one's Jace, who is famously my favorite character. I've got to be the biggest Jace fan in the world. I think he's going to survive too, but I do got to admit, out of the three, he has the most comprehensive, full, and complete character arc. And I'd be a fool to ignore that, so and if we need an inciting incident for Victor to go dark, the death of Jace, that's the best, literal best reason. You know, if we want Victor to really explore the dark side of discovery, of scientific innovation, etc., that is a great excuse for that. However, I don't think they'd do that. I don't think they'd kill Jace. I think he has a huge role to play. But actually, the funny thing about it is, I don't know what role. He's gone through a fantastic arc, a faux corruption arc. Now where does he go? I don't really know, but I'm really excited to find out, assuming he lives. That's the big cliffhanger, who lives from Season 1 going into Season 2. I imagine some of the council members will die. I think that they're going to have to sell that there is fallout from this, political fallout. And so I do think that Caitlyn's mom is unfortunately pretty doomed. I think she's nailed on to die. Because I don't believe that those three will die, I think someone important has to, and she's the only one who's at least who we're at least intimately familiar with. I imagine she'll die, and maybe the rest of the council, I don't know. And this will lead to some interesting stuff for Caitlyn as well. Those are my predictions. Could be totally wrong, but I don't think it's bold to predict those things. I think that's just kind of what the show's laid out for us, and what anyone who's sort of been invested in the first season would expect. And then, yeah, we'll see what goes on with Echo, Heimerdinger, Vi and Jinx and their face-off. What happens? Will the world building be expanded? There's so much to happen, and I can't wait. Let's start. Let's do it. And just so you know, if you'd like to watch me react to these, the full-length versions will be available on Patreon for $5, and early access to the next episode will be available under the $20 tier. I don't know. It'll be shown on Patreon. So those options are available. I know some tend to enjoy those. I tend to do it for reactors I like, so it's out there. Oh, we're going right into it. Jason Mel alive. Oh, the music. The sound design. Yeah. Oh my god. Oh yeah. Oh my god. Oh, she's gone right in there and taken control. Okay, I was wondering if it would be the same song. Oh my god. I'm gonna watch these, but I'm gonna try not to look too hard into interpreting them, because the first one is pretty spoilery. You know, I just had a thought. about what Caitlyn's mom dying could mean for her. Our Father. Wow. Wow, this imagery, it's incredible. It's blocking off one of the only things that offered her color in her life. And imagine how Vi must be feeling. She must be feeling immense guilt at this.
To think we nearly extended sovereignty.
Yeah, it's over.
To the creatures who did this.
That was the only chance.
There will be no more fairy tales of peace until we scour our basement of its demons.
So kind of you to assist Councillor Salah.
What a haunting
As we are at war,
sight, this destroyed council room.
Of such an experienced veteran. We flood the Undercity with enforcers, armed with hex tech.
Innocents will be caught in the crossfire.
How many more councillors have to be blown to pieces before you finally wake up? We are under siege!
Officer Kiraman witnessed the attack firsthand. She confirmed this was the act of a single deranged individual.
Jinx.
Silco is dead. The underground leaderless. If we follow your plan, we risk unifying them against us. Pin the attack on Jinx. Post a reward too substantial to ignore.
I don't...
Mel, I'm not comfortable trusting our fates to chance.
I think, given the situation, that's a bit too idealistic
Once she's been brought to justice.
for anyone to buy into that.
Then it's settled. 2-1. We invade.
In crises such as these, it's imperative you present a unified front to the public, whatever your personal feelings.
How wise.
A fox and a wolf.
I'll agree to endorse the invasion. But I draw the line at Hextech.
Agreed.
Then it's settled. 2-1.
Look at Ambessa, though. Stepping right in. Kind of being a little exploitative. Look at that. I don't know what this guy's name is, but I like the role he's been given here. Oh, man. Her father was one of the sweetest characters in Season 1.
I had the shot.
Yeah, I feel like this is gonna be... There's the potential for Caitlyn heading down a big road of darkness after this.
The Kiraman key. No, I'm not.
It's your legacy now, Caitlyn.
Because the thing is, she really carried forward the sentiment that Vander had in a much more pragmatic way, in a much more sort of perceptive way and realistic way in Season 1, but now she must have so many regrets about that, because this is what it led to. I don't know. I never even thought about it, but looking at it now, Caitlyn... That's beautiful.
You were right, Kate. Powder's gone.
My mother was right. My arrogance led me to take on more than I could handle, and she paid the price.
They were right there. They were right there.
They're sending all the enforcers after Jinx. I'm going with them.
Please, I have to help.
You can.
Oh boy.
As one of us.
Oh wow.
Kate, I can't wear this. I watched them kill my parents. Do you have any idea how that feels?
Yes, I do. I thought you were on our side.
Oh boy.
You
Caitlyn.
think it all.
New character.
Lose someone in the attack?
By her perception, kind of. Oh, man. Is that medical equipment in the back?
Your guess is as good as mine.
Wow. Holy shit. Oh, man. See, of course Jace would lean to that. Of course he couldn't destroy it.
It should be me up there instead of him.
Don't say that. He'll come back to us.
What a haunting image.
How'd it go with
Huh.
Council?
My
Interesting
mother's
framing
entered
there.
again. She's already gotten her hooks into Sallow, using his grief to make a play for Hextech.
Mel, I promised Victor. Never again.
I won't let them corrupt your dream.
Oh, man. This episode. The vibes are not great. As you'd expect. That's really interesting. Because who was haunting who was haunting Jinx's dreams towards the end of season 1? Caitlyn. Now Jinx is taunting her.
Mother and I used to come here when we needed an escape. One of the few places we never argued.
Beautiful.
I see Mother, and they
Oh,
found her. And every fiber of me just sinks. But then there's Jinx, laughing. I want to tear that laugh from her throat forever.
Kate,
I just understand now how easy it is to hate them. One vicious act. I asked her to put on the uniform. Suffice to say, she declined.
Fine. Wear a badge.
Hextech may keep us alive,
the music.
but it's not what will save us.
The music so far has been so good for transmitting this really somber, ominous tone.
Who are you? How do you
Ooh.
know my name? Junior Officer Nolan. Maddie. And, it's written on your face. Is it all true? You went after Silco alone when the council wouldn't back you. Took on his whole gang.
Ah, I see.
Kate said all that.
She said, if every enforcer had a heart like yours, we could take on Noxus itself. It's nice to know there's still good ones left. A real honor, Vi.
If she's going to become an enforcer, it's going to be little things like this that help tip her over. Mel has an incredibly momentous task in so many ways. Being a mediator, the stuff with her mom, supporting Jace, she supported Caitlyn in this. Just keeping everything in balance for the sake of...
One of the many privileges of serving as your counselor, joined together not by birth or dictum, but by all that we share. Our hope. Today,
Uh-oh.
we share an unthinkable loss. Councillor Irius Borbeck, Councillor Tormund Hoskell, and Councillor Cassandra Kiraman were taken from us.
It's interesting to compare... I'll get back to that.
Awful, isn't it? Losing a loved one.
Oh my god. Wow. Rennie? I think her name's Rennie, from what I remember. Makes sense. Makes sense, given what happened to her son. But they're making a bigger statement. He could have killed Mel right there. It's almost making a bigger statement to leave her alive. You aren't safe. She's essentially doing the job of an enforcer right here anyway, isn't she? If this is what she's going to be doing, it's a formality, isn't it? But there's a big difference between defending. There's a big difference between defending and invading, but I think this action, Vi is a woman of action, and I think this action is making her realize I can't stay idle, and if I'm going to pick a side, in spite of... Where's Savika? God damn. Ooh. Kinda got revenge, didn't she? Oh. Oh, wow. Oh my god, this imagery. Oh, this is so meaningful for Jace. Wow.
My son.
Yeah. Holy shit. Holy shit. That reminds me of the beginning of episode 8. The flashback from Mel's POV. A fox and a wolf. Look at this. This is very reminiscent of the scenes of Noxus and blood spattering her face.
A memorial? What kind of animals?
They wanted the spectacle. All right, they're trying to scare you.
All they did is piss me off.
You need to find a way to call off the invasion.
What?
This battle was on your soil. Down there, you'll be on their terms.
None of this is on our terms. She dies and leaves this giant hole, and I'm just supposed to fill it. Like she was never there to begin with.
That's Vi and Vander.
You won't. The hole gets smaller, but...
Oh, man.
You never fill it.
God, the visuals in this show.
You're a caramel.
This is what you asked for. Heavy is the crown.
Never in our lifetimes has Piltover's leadership enforced into the dungeons of our capital. But here we are.
Huh.
Does anyone still doubt that our enemy is greater than one deranged individual?
They must have had help from someone up here.
We can't afford any more hand-wringing.
We aren't prepared for a full-scale invasion. The Undercity's attack proved that.
This is a closed council meeting. Who let you in here?
I am a decorated officer, leader of House Kiraman. Address me with respect, or keep your mouth shut.
Oh.
I will lead a strike team into Zorn with 3 objectives. Locate Jinx,
I have chills.
dismantle Shimmer, and neutralize any agents still loyal to Silco. We've got a few surprises of our own.
Oh boy. Huh. Oh, man. Still not done. Okay. Oh, is that singed? Okay. What an amazing, amazing premiere. Incredible. It had it didn't have a bit of everything, but from a certain perspective, it had a bit of everything. They're definitely telling one side of the story in episode 1. And it's really interesting how they mirror the structure, or foil the structure of season 1. Okay. Yeah, I love that. Arcane is back, baby. I really, really, really enjoyed that. There was a lot to set up in this episode. A lot of it is sort of the fallout and the settling of the dust, and a lot of things, sort of the foundations being laid. But then the second half to the last third of the episode or so, it's just fireworks, and there's so much fascinating potential at play for so many characters and so many directions that I should have seen coming. Some of them I did, but 1 or 2 of them I absolutely didn't. But let's get into it. First of all, the perspective here. In season 1, the first episode was purely from the perspective of Vi and Powder and Vander, the Undercity. And it shows us their plight and their ambitions and what's going on societally with them. It does the world building from the perspective of the Undercity. And then episode 2 shows us the other side. It's a very Jace-centric episode. And it shows us his background, and it introduces Victor and Caitlyn and the Council and everything to do with Piltover. Season 2 seems to be doing something of the reverse. We very notably don't see anything from Jinx. We don't see anything from Savika, or the people of the Undercity that we've grown to know, outside of Singed right at the end. But Jinx's presence is everywhere. She is haunting Caitlyn in her dreams, just like Caitlyn haunted her in the sort of last 3 or 4 episodes of season 1, which is some really cool foiling and a bit of a mirror. But the effects of what she did have long-reaching ramifications, as we would have guessed, and affects very deeply the characters we know and love, specifically Caitlyn. But Jace has huge effects of this. Victor is in something of a coma, but man, he's not going to be there for too long, I don't think. I can only see him staying in there for another episode, maybe 2 at most, and I think he's getting out of there. And whatever's going on with his body, with the Hex Core, I think it's going to change him. Now, of course, there was the unknown with the Hex Core, where Victor asked Jace to destroy it, but we don't see him destroy it at all. And knowing what Jace knows, Victor is arguably the most important person in the world to him. I think Mel is the only competition, really. So when Victor is given a prognosis of, or rather a time limit on his life, and the Hex Core, despite being volatile and dangerous, was the only thing to really show promise for helping him. I didn't imagine that for a second Jace was going to destroy it, and he didn't. We get confirmation of that here. But yeah, with regards to Victor, I don't imagine that it's going to lead to anything wholesome. And it really pains me to feel that because of what a sensitive, kind soul Victor is, though there are some other elements to it, of course. He is a fully fleshed out human character, and he's got pride, he's got ambitions, he's got dreams of a legacy and the byproducts that come with that, of course, but he is a good soul who wanted the best for the Undercity, and just had nothing to bank on but perseverance, similar to Silco. And I think we're going to see him go down a dark path, so that's rough. On that sort of line of thinking, the episode is so dreary. Visually, it is incredibly dreary. The tone, the music is just so somber. It's like a funeral dirge throughout. There's some operatic songs, there's some choirs, but it all feels like a lament, as it should. A great tragedy has occurred. And, I think that tragedy also reflects what Jinx had to experience. As much as this is a funeral and a memorial for those who died, I forget the names of the other two. Bulbo, it's the guy who Mel played around with the child's toy, and the one who had the voice thing. And then, of course, Caitlyn's mother, Cassandra. It's a memorial for all three of them, who are huge influential figures for Piltover. But also, what I find notable and interesting is that someone else has died. Basically at the same time. A minute or two prior to it. And while I totally sympathize with Caitlyn, there are multiple perspectives to this show, and I think not viewing it from those multiple perspectives is doing a disservice to the writing at play here. So Caitlyn is enraged at these people disrupting this memorial and using it as an excuse for an attack. And absolutely incredibly disrespectful, but what has just happened prior to this? They've conducted a raid on one of the Shimmer facilities. They've killed plenty of innocents and at least a kid. I'm sure there's more. Silco has died, and none of these people get memorials. They don't get the luxury of a memorial to be attacked, which is what you'd imagine they would argue. At best, they're going to get a statue similar to Vander in some quiet, dark, dreary alleyway. And you juxtapose that at the bottom of this pit with these three towering figures, emboldened, I think, in gold. The contrast is really stark. They get this incredible memorial. Silco doesn't get anything. And what do those who have been hurt in the Undercity get? So, what I really like about this is, and I guess this is a great segue into Caitlyn, what I like about this for Caitlyn is that it offers new dimensions to her character, which I think really raises the ceiling for her as a character. I love Caitlyn in Season 1. I think she's a great protagonistic figure, but something about her is that she was almost a paragon. She was someone who could see the perspective of the Undercity. She's definitely privileged, but she, after bearing witness to the trials of the Undercity, opened her eyes, realized what needed to happen, communicated that to the Council with Vi, communicated it to her mom, and ultimately carried forward the sort of torch of the sentiment that Vander tried to get across, but in a way that was more appropriate for the time and more pragmatic and realistic. Vander just kind of maintained the status quo with no real end goal, and I'm sympathetic to that cause because he's just trying to live another day for him and his loved ones, but he really didn't have much of a plan long term, which Grayson often brought up to him. Like, something's gotta give. The levee has to break, the balance has to be broken. You can't maintain this status quo and not progress anywhere. Like, Grayson often reminded him of the fact that he just can't keep doing this. Vi did the same thing. What Caitlyn did was strived for genuine change instead of just trying to protect what she had. And she heard everyone's perspective, the Undercity, those on top, everyone. And I think she's a big part of the reason that they got so close to agreeing to this peace. But now, she's been affected personally. And I think what this sort of shows is that the emotions at play make it so that only those who have not been affected intimately by the violence of this sort of war can really, at this point in time, see straight. Because the moment Caitlyn loses someone so important to her, so inspirational to her, by the way, the visuals in the sort of funeral for her, with the purple petals going down, the violet petals, everyone blacked out, including her father, I think that was in the background, except for Caitlyn, Vi, the petals, and her mom. Beautiful stuff. But now Caitlyn's been affected by that. And now she is self-aware of the fact that she cannot... How easy it is to hate them. She said that. She's self-aware, but I don't think at this moment she really cares. She is going heart over head. Or rather, the sentiment in her heart that longed for this peace, now they've reacted. They've reacted to what's been done, and she can see firsthand the terror that can bring. And she doesn't see anything but retribution. Now, do I know the answer? Not really, but I find it interesting that even someone like Caitlyn can lean into this. I don't know the answer to this. I don't know how the show's going to conclude, really. But what I do know is that Caitlyn, what she's doing is not the answer. However, she's got to do it. She's got to defend that which she cares about after so much has already been taken from her. And also just the disrespect. She can't stomach it. She hates it. I also want to add that, Caitlyn is speaking from a place of privilege. Yes, her mom has died and this huge figure in her life is gone and it's a tragedy. But now she's seeing the perspective of what a lot of people in the Undercity have dealt with for years. And that is for ages and ages and ages. And the first time she feels that sort of pain, she feels this need to lash out. She is feeling what they felt in a much keener way, much more intimate way than she thought she had when she first saw Echo. When she saw their perspective and she was able to empathize. But the first time she actually feels what they felt, she actually feels that pain, she needs to resort to violence. I think that's very telling. That's very telling, and that's very noteworthy in terms of this sort of cyclical struggles and what the story I think is trying to tell us about violence begetting violence, about these cycles. And who knows better about violence than Ambessa, who wields it, who manipulates it, who uses it as a tool for her ends. And Caitlyn, being vulnerable, being lacking a mother figure now, may find one through the mother that is now perhaps going to be separating from her daughter. It's fantastic stuff, and I do want to just offer nuance because this change in Caitlyn's character is very drastic and very sudden, but I think it's very organic, and I get it. I buy it. I think it's good writing. But I don't want to condemn her as evil. I don't want to make it seem like she's suddenly become an evil person. I don't think so. She's definitely down a dark path, and I imagine she's going to do some dark things, and it's definitely concerning. But there's nuance there. All these characters are humans, on either side. And so I just want to clarify that. To me, Caitlyn, despite making this change that is very concerning, I still sympathize with her. I still really like her as a character. In fact, this makes her a better character. These layers, these flawed layers, these interesting layers, this darkness. But I still like her. I still sympathize with her. And I still think she has a good heart. It's just wounded. Now, what happens from this point? I guess we'll see. So, Caitlyn really feels to me to be someone who is ripe to be molded. There was a really interesting shot where Ambessa, who right away, through her pure meritocratic strength, the fox and the wolf immediately, naturally finds herself in this position of immense power simply due to her experience with war. The character, I forget his name. Let me look up his name. Sallow. We have Sallow from the council, who after seeing the destruction that has been wrought, sees nothing in his path forward except retribution and foolishness that they even thought that they could broker a peace here. But Ambessa has sort of become a bit of a puppet master here. A fox and a wolf, but here's the fox element of her. She is kind of puppeteering. The imagery is very, very stark. He literally loses use of his legs. He's in a wheelchair, and she is the one pushing it. And in the meeting, in the broken council room, stunning, striking imagery, very dreary, he states that they need to fight back. And that is something that Mel, almost against Mel. It's like he is going against Mel, but Ambessa is behind him, sort of guiding his actions. She's kind of using him. And we know Ambessa's all about that warfare. So it's kind of Ambessa against Mel. And with the power she's amassed immediately, because of her strength, she's able to outvote her. Essentially, they are going to invade. Now, Mel has her own conditions there, which she puts on there, so she's not lost control completely, but Ambessa is absolutely manipulating and using Sallow. And I really think it's interesting, because in Season 1, Mel manipulated Hoskell. Just had to look up his name too. Remember, throughout, Mel kind of plays him like a fiddle. She gives him a child's toy in episode 2, and then, having curried favor with him, uses him as an extra vote for her. And then, in a really sly, smart way, throughout the entirety of season 1, finds herself using him for her ends. And Bess is doing the same with kind of his counterpart, Solo, except Hoskell is now dead. And Solo's kind of stepped into prominence a little bit. I think he's being used. I think he's being used as a tool. And I think it's a sad direction for the character. And I think it makes him, it doesn't make him a triple S tier character now or anything, but I think it adds a new layer to him that's really interesting. He is a pawn for Ambessa, I think. But as I alluded to, there was a moment where Caitlyn, after coming in as an enforcer, draws a look from Ambessa. A curious look, maybe an opportunistic look. I think that Caitlyn is ripe to be molded by Ambessa. I really think that's where things are going. The visuals tell a story of their own, and you'd imagine that Caitlyn is a much more interesting morsel than Solo long term. So I think that's a dynamic to keep your eye on. Ambessa was not able to bring Mel onto her side, but she's playing her own Game of Thrones. She's amassing power, she's amassing influence, and just because she is this badass warrior does not mean that she is not capable of doing this. We saw, I think, towards the end of season 1, a lot of the wolf. We saw a bit of the fox with the way that she sort of interacted with Jace, but we are really seeing the fox and the wolf in season 2 already. It's a fascinating direction for Ambessa to go in and for Caitlyn to go in. Both characters. It makes me sad for Caitlyn because this is a path of darkness, I really think so. But in terms of the writing, fantastic. And I do want to make note of the fact that Ambessa is a human being. She isn't just this purely dark, conqueror with no affection or warmth, because it's really important. I think one of the most important aspects to her character introduced in season 1 is that she sent Mel away because Mel's eyes, the way that Mel would disagree with the cutthroat things that she had to do, that Ambessa had to do to protect their family, weakened her. It made her second guess and want to do the weak, quote-unquote, thing because Mel softened her. And you can see that connection, that affection that she has to Mel, because the first thing we see isn't anything to do with manipulating Solo or fighting someone or anything. She does plenty of that. But the first thing we see is her making her way into the council room and making sure that Mel's all right. So while I do think that the two, mother and daughter, are butting heads, to put it lightly, are against each other, there is affection there. There is warmth there. And it's a very human element of Ambessa's character that I think is important to draw attention to. Now, I've covered Victor, I've covered Mel, and from Mel's perspective, she has so many things to juggle. She's got to be a mediator, she's got to soothe anxieties, she's got to be a spokesperson for the people, she's got to go up against her mother for her ideals, keep Jason in tow. The stuff that's going on with Caitlyn, too. She is one of the most important people politically. She already was, but even to a greater extent now. And she is going to play a huge role going forward. And, I don't want to pay too much attention to the visuals of the opening. Won't talk too much about it. There was something about Victor that I can't get out of my mind. But there was this image of Mel with what seemed like tendrils or fingers seeming to split her apart at the seams. Yeah, we're seeing that. She's under so much pressure. So we've talked about Mel, Ambessa, Caitlyn, Victor in this episode. There's also Vi, and it is a shock to see her in that enforcer outfit, that uniform. But what I find really notable is that a lot of Vi's journey throughout season 1 is a stagnant character arc. She grew up wanting to enact change, but being unequipped with being able to do so. She tried to protect Powder, never felt like she really could. Tried to do it later with Jinx, didn't do it either. And now she accepts that that Powder's gone. But she's in a bit of a limbo. She doesn't really know what to do with herself. She doesn't know how to approach the future going forward. She knows she has to confront Jinx, but is her heart fully in it? I don't know. And how is the method that she does that? How does she do it? Well, Caitlyn has taken charge. It's, again, another sort of mirror flip from the dynamic in Season 1. Caitlyn is central. Caitlyn is taking agency. Vi is on her side. She's kind of her right-hand woman, but Caitlyn's calling the shots. And I think that kind of helps Vi, because I don't think she's really in a state right now. She spends so much of her life being the leader, having the burden. And I don't think she really would complain too much about taking that about having that burden taken off of her. But Caitlyn, I don't know, man. She's headed down a dangerous road, a very volatile road. So Vi, she's gonna have to deal with the obviously impending confrontation with Jinx, but she's also got to deal with her loved one going down a bit of a precarious path. And then we have Jace. There was some beautiful, beautiful stuff subtextually going on with Jace. Rennie, in a karmic sort of way, coming back to sort of haunt him for what he did. You know, internally, I doubt he thinks that he doesn't deserve that. But he is saved by Vi, the other one who, interestingly enough, was with him when he killed her son. And from that perspective, one must wonder, where's the justice for them in terms of retribution? You know, it's so multifaceted and complex morally. But Jace, yeah, we talked about it a little bit at first. He's not going to let Victor die. He's going to do anything he can to make sure that he stays alive, even if it changes him fundamentally. I don't know what it's going to result in for Victor, but I don't think it'll be good. I think he's going down a dark path, but what Jace cares about more than anything is him surviving. And that's what he's trying to ensure. There's this beautiful bit of symbolism, I think, where we have Rennie chasing Jace on the podium, the place where he gesticulated and talked about all his plans. One of the most iconic shots for me in Arcane is him at the podium, overlooking the crowd, cameras snapping, the lights, everything. The Golden Boy. Love that we see the cup as well. The Golden Boy's actions are coming back to haunt him in a karmic way, literally through Rennie. She's a representation of that, but also in a symbolic way through all of this. I find it really interesting. He's clawing his way, lit up on the podium, the statues behind him, the memorials, the evergreen reminder of the weapon that he caused. As he tries to make his way to the podium, this place that used to be a place of safety, a place where he felt bigger, he felt this power, he could feel his dreams coming to fruition, he could almost taste it, but it never came. The things that he wanted to achieve through Hextech never came, but the place that he was able to taste them most was at that podium, and so he's making his way towards it in that one shot. I think that's beautiful stuff. That's just what I was struck by when I first saw it. It's very symbolic and it's very subtextual, but I think it's a very valid interpretation, and I think it's an encapsulation of the trouble that Jace finds himself in, and we see that ultimately he does, when the levee breaks, push comes to shove, he is having to do what he never wanted to do. He is making Hextech weapons that I assume now Caitlyn, Vi, the rest of the Enforcers, who are these newer characters that I imagine will come to know more because they've been given some emphasis, that all of them are carrying. So Jace is using their technology that was meant to be this prosperous, harmonious revolution for warfare, as Victor kind of looks on, haunting him, twitching. It's great stuff, it's poetic stuff, but man, the vibes, they're awful. Just some little tidbits outside of that. Caitlyn's father, heartbreaking to see him like that. He was always, in Season 1, a really sweet, sort of affectionate father, a bit bumbling, but I always remember him being very wholesome and sweet. And seeing him like that's tough. In addition, already mentioned the Enforcers. I'm sure they'll come into prominence, especially that guy that Vi was drinking with. We'll see. We'll see what goes on with that. We see Singed at the end confronting some wolves, it looks like, in a cave. I don't know what's going on with that, but we'll see what happens. And we'll clearly get more from Singed the more the series goes on, the season goes on. I imagine something to do with his past with his daughter. We did see this like hulking bestial figure in the last scene of Season 1 sort of hanging near the ceiling in his lab. I don't know what's going on there, but we'll see. I also really love how Solo, again, this pawn, he's kind of a personification of the the old order, the old regime being completely used and spouting old rhetoric. And Solo's great in this episode, and I like that he points out that the symbolism of them being shoved into the dungeons. Verticality is used all over the place in Arcane. Visually, in the literal first scene we get, we can see that this sort of dynamic between the Undercity and Piltover through the camera panning up and showing this heavenly light above the upper crust of society there. It's high above everything. The Undercity going down to the depths in episode 1 compared to the beautiful bright daylight and lighter colors of Piltover in episode 2. Verticality is used everywhere, but now the council is forced to, instead of on their perch overlooking everything, be in the dungeons. That's what's happened, and these counselors cannot stomach that. Something needs to change. The order needs to be reestablished, and so they need to be back on top. To do that, they need enforcers to invade, and they need to win this war. And Bessa will manipulate that and take advantage of that. She may wield Caitlyn. Vi's got her own thing going on. Jace, oh boy, the vibes are so bad. And last thing, just visually stunning. The mood, the rain, the atmosphere, the broken down council room. So striking, so sad, because of what it kind of represented at the end of Season 1 to now. Rain coming through. The shot of Caitlyn and Vi hugging with the rain as a backdrop. The beautiful, one of the only bright scenes where Caitlyn and Jace talk about Caitlyn's feelings and memories of this place, this sort of utopic place that represents her beautiful childhood, the mother that is now lost to her, that time. It's really interesting how she goes back, drifts back to this place that represents all those beautiful memories for her now that that's been taken from her. And the visuals convey that beautifully. But yeah, that's all I got for this episode. Great stuff. I'm expecting, we haven't seen Heimerdinger or Echo, but we also haven't seen the Undercity at all. So I imagine we'll see those two, Jinx, Savika, maybe more from Singed in the next episode, because I imagine they'll touch base with the Undercity. And man, I can't wait. Thank you so much everyone for watching. If you would like early access to episode 2's reaction, or full length, you can check that out on Patreon. I think I'm going to watch the second one right away. Maybe in the same shirt in the next one. We'll see. Thank you so much. Many thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.